my friends, how's it hanging? Nazbro here, and I'm sorry for not posting any videos in a bit. I live in Florida, you see, and we recently had a really big angry cloud pass over and kind of give us a hard time. My internet was out for like half a week, but everything is back up and running now. Hope any other Floridians out there are doing alright. There is another reason though. You've seen the title and thumbnail of this video, so you know we got some insanely important lore that really changes how we're thinking about a ton of stuff. Funny thing is, before this week's revelation, I actually had a video fully scripted, recorded, and about 2/3 of the way edited talking about the goblins, Undermine, the Arathi, and the next big patch that's being hinted on the PTR. We're still going to talk about some of that, but most of that previous video was talking about theories about the crystal that they're after, which many, myself included, believed had to be related to the other enormous crystal in the expansion, Beledar, because it would be silly if it was completely unrelated. Well, theories are all just out the window because we actually now know what that big-ass shiny rock is. That previous video about the goblins, the Arathi, and the 11.1 patch has undergone now 3 rewrites. I actually wrote it before the PTR stuff showed up, and then I had to rewrite the script and re-record because I had to now include a bunch of new stuff. And now, of course, with this week's revelations about Beledar, I've just had to rewrite everything and re-record everything again. Spoilers ahead, by the way. I recommend you go ahead and do the archives weekly and gather up your Titan CDs first, because we're going full steam ahead into the revelations this week thrust upon us. So, let's just get right into it. Beledar is not a Naru ship or a giant Naru or anything like that. Despite being aspected to the capital L light, it does not seem to originate from the light at all. Kind of. This big rock, according to Arcadis, is actually a huge crystallized bit of Azeroth World Soul energy. Now let's rewind a little bit and recap everything our boy Arcadis has said from the couple times we've attempted to fix the archives. So the first thing he ever let us know was something pretty big. That somewhere out in the universe was something the Titans were looking for called the Prime World Soul. The very best like no one ever was. This better than all the rest World Soul had the potential to become the greatest Titan if guided by the Titans correctly. Feeling a strong presence out in space, the Pantheon made their way and found Azeroth. The next time we paid the archives a visit, Arcadis goes over the battle against the Black Empire, and after their victory, the Titans desire to study this newly discovered World Soul to see if it was powerful enough to be considered the Prime. To help with this process, a huge network of Titan machinery called the Manifold was created, which is made up of pretty much all the Titan installations we know about, and probably more, all connected together. Now we come to this week's bombshell. With the installations connected and running, massive quantities of Titan Forged were manufactured, and the Manifold began mending the damage that had been done to Azeroth. This event was called the Acclamation, and even just that name probably confirms some long-standing theories, which I'll get into in a bit. During the Acclamation, the Coreway was constructed to study the World Soul directly without harming it. As the Coreway got deeper though, the Titan Forge discovered something they weren't expecting. Massive crystals made up of solidified Azeroth World Soul energy. The hologram during this bit of the recording shows us an example, and it looks exactly like Beledar. Arcadis then tells us that there were more of these crystals out there in the world, an unknown amount hidden beneath the ground. Further study of the World Soul revealed that, yes, Azeroth is indeed the Prime World Soul. So, this is huge, and also opens up a lot more cans of worms. Beledar is one of these massive calcified bits of Azeroth energy, or at least that's what we're being led to believe. There are immediately a whole bunch of questions that come to my mind. Number 1. Beledar is 100% emitting light, as the very light-centric community of Arathi and Hallowfall use it to empower themselves and do light-related things. How much of Azeroth's World Soul is made up of light? Is she supposed to be an all-light being already? Number 2. Beledar shifts to the Void. Does that mean the same thing could happen at any moment to Azeroth herself? Has it been happening already? Number 3. In Chronicle Volume 1, and hey, I know some of you don't put stock into Chronicle anymore ever since Denuzer's Titan Perspective line, but I still stand by the fact that that comment was more than likely a misstep on his part, since most of the Chronicle stuff is actual, factual events. It might have been more accurate for him to say that this is just how everything played out with all the information we have at the time of publishing. But I digress. Chronicle does describe that at the birth of the physical universe, when the Big Bang happened between the light and the void clashing, massive shards of light were flung all across the universe, embedding themselves into planets. Do these big light crystals being flung across the universe have any relation to the world soul that apparently has some of its energy calcified into light crystals on the planet? Anduin mentioned he believed he heard the radiant song coming from Beledar, but then later backtracked saying it was similar but different, which now makes a bit more sense. Void shifting aside, another line stood out in the Arcadis narration, that of the acclimation. Now here's some definitions of the verb acclimate. Become accustomed to a new climate or new conditions, or, more importantly, respond physiologically or behaviorally to a change in an environmental factor under controlled conditions. Basically, the Titans trying to acclimate Azeroth's soul confirms something most people have kind of speculated on for a while now. Azeroth, while in her sleepy world soul state, is vulnerable and malleable. It sure sounds like the Titans began using their installations to try to shape the soul into something closer to a Titan than anything else. If you're not in the loop, a whole lot of us have believed that Azeroth is kind of like a neutral being, and can be leaned towards any of the cosmic forces if they get to her first. So if the Titans get to her first and fully influence her, she becomes a super Titan. If the Void gets to her first, she becomes a super Void Lord. And so on. That is something along those lines is what we've been thinking for a while. The acclimation that the archives mention, I think, refers to the Titans trying to acclimate Azeroth to become something closer to a Titan by saturating her with their essence, using their massive network of installations and the manifold. Something we've all thought for a while now, seemingly confirmed. I also want to point out the logo of the last Titan, which really does have similarities to the Titan prisons that were holding the primal incarnates back in Dragonflight. Now, the acclimation could just refer to acclimating the world soul to a new post-Black Empire state of being, especially since we don't really know what Odin's missives were referring to when they mentioned to attribute all accomplishments of the Black Empire to the Titans alone. Still a lot to think about. The revelation also comes hot on the heels of new dialogue found on the PTR, and a whole lot just clicks into place. Long story short, the PTR sees some goblins, earthen, and an Arathi airship engineer all talking about the goblins making a discovery out on an abandoned island mine, which has a massive crystal present that they are interested in. Obviously, the Arathi also have an interest in this, seeing as they probably believe it's related to the only other big-ass crystal that we know of in the expansion. Another one of these big calcified bits of Azeroth juice, no doubt. What awaits us on the island and how events will play out is still a mystery though. More than likely, with our allied goblin friends under Gazlo's command being involved, our enemies will most likely be that of the Venture Company, or those Dark Fuse goblins we tussle with briefly in the max level campaign. Or a combination of both. We knew there was most likely a goblin patch coming due to the data-mined goblin raid icon from a while back, although I did not expect the Arathi to be so involved with it at all. I believe that the Arathi and our goblin allies will eventually team up for this expedition, even if there is some tension from either side starting off. This abandoned island mine might also be connected to Undermine, since the tunnels coming from Undermine apparently spread for miles and miles around. The Venture Company goblins we meet in the War Within apparently tunneled to Khazalgar straight from Undermine, or at least that's what it sounds like. If those Dark Fuse Xalatath-aligned goblins are indeed the main foe, the Arathi's involvement could also point to their own Void counterparts teaming up with the goblins as well, which just sounds like an insane patch. Is this new crystal also shifting between the Void and the Light though? Or is this something exclusive to Beledar? I guess we'll have to wait to find out. This new crystal also might let us get much closer than what Beledar does, seeing as how, the new one will probably not be a part of the skybox when it is seemingly above ground. There is a whole lot to unpack here with this new lore, and it makes you wonder if we could somehow use the crystals to maybe interact with Azeroth in a way we haven't before, seeing as they are made of her very life essence. Different from Azerite, mind you, but under the same umbrella for sure. There will probably be more to talk about as more gets revealed about 11.1, probably during Blizzard's Warcraft Direct presentation that they'll be having in place of BlizzCon, so time will tell. In the meantime, we do have the anniversary patch coming up, and hopefully the 11.05 patch should also give us some new quest content for regular War Within stuff, alongside all the anniversary shenanigans. What do you guys think of all this though? Do you guys find it weird that the crystals are actually, that we know of, not related to the capital L light at all, and instead come from Azeroth? Do you have your own theories about how things will play out from now on? Let me know in the comments, I love me some good theories. Other than that, if you made it to the end of this video, you're a legend. Drop a like if you enjoy how I do things here, and subscribing would mean the world to me. Current goal is 500 subscribers, so let's keep the ball rolling. Until next time, stay safe, bros.